Welcome back. Focus Daily TV, live and in full effect. Today in Biblical Prophecy, we'll be speaking about the Trading with the Enemies Act. Once the classification and registration began, immediately they began to classify us as enemies if we refused to go along with the new system that was being installed. Around the time of World War I, everything began to change. Here on Focus Daily TV, we speak about biblical prophecy. We speak about African Americans, so-called African Americans, who are actually the children of God whom the Bible speaks of. Jerusalem, Israel. We watch short videos and I react and we try to draw information from this to point out how us as a people fell from grace and lost our glory because, as the Bible speaks of, we wanted to have kings like them. We wanted to be like them. And in wanting to be like them, we failed to continue to abide by and follow the commandments of the Father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So I'm not going to draw out too much with this introduction. I'm going to get straight to it. Trading with the enemy. Let's go. We present history. We break it down and retract the truth of us as a people.
From today on Make the Rest of Your Life the Best of Your Life. 1917 Trading with the Enemy Act amended in 1933 to include U.S. citizens as enemies of the state. 91 years ago.
See, that 1933, that's a very integral date. It was on that date that this new fiat, new world order, world of sin, demonic government was fully instated. 1933, 33 as in the Masonic orders. That's the real meaning behind that 33. It was in 33 that their system was fully activated upon the people.
Today, President Franklin D. Roosevelt pulled off the greatest heist in American history. Unlike most robberies, this one was entirely legal. No safe cracking was required.
And the heist he speaks of is the stealing of the kingdom from the children of God. All of this in North America was already here once the so-called pilgrims and foreigners arrived. It was already a complex civilization here with high technology and things that the other world hadn't seen until they arrived here. And once they arrived here, they immediately began to plot and scheme on how they could dethrone us and place themselves into our position. All nations conspired against us.
No ski masks, guns, or getaway cars. Just a pen and some White House letterhead. On April 5, 1933, FDR issued Executive Order 6102, making it illegal for anyone in the United States to own gold, by penalty of up to a $10,000 fine or 10 years in prison. Everyone in the country.
So once again, when bringing in this world of sin fiat government, they had to turn everything upside down. The Bible states that gold and silver is mine, said the Lord. The Lord intended us to use gold and silver for economic transactions. However, in order to bring in this new world government, they had to turn everything upside on its head and convince us to depend on them and their systems rather than the system that the Bible set up. See, the Bible is not a religion. It is more of a government than it is a religious institution. The Catholic Church and the foreigners introduced this religious aspect, but that's a whole nother story. Let's move on.
Was ordered to turn in their gold to the government by the end of the month. EO 6102 is one of the most important milestones in the history of money, bookended by the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913 and the end of the Bretton Woods system in 1971.
So here we go. The Federal Reserve, a corporate entity that came in and 13th and 14th Amendment us made us as the original people of this land criminals and placed themselves into our position with that 14th Amendment, making them citizens on this citizenship. Let us move on.
It was a pivotal part of the process by which the USA abandoned gold for a fiat standard. As such, it's a milestone in Bitcoin history too. Though Bitcoiners' interest in EO 6102
Yeah, Bitcoin ain't nothing but the digital form of this same demonic fiat system. It's a scam just as well.
extends beyond the merely historical, because it's the quintessential cautionary tale of arbitrary government seizure of personal property. It's also one of the best real case studies to illustrate the value of Bitcoin self-custody. Realizing that the government is not your friend is like learning that Santa Claus...
Yeah, apparently this channel trying to sell Bitcoin, but on Focus Daily TV, we not. We trying to present this truth, because it is the truth that shall make you free. Hit that like button, subscribe, support the channel. Hey, hashtag Focus Daily TV. Any support will be greatly appreciated.
Isn't real, a necessary part of growing up, but a potentially traumatic fact that needs to be introduced to children carefully. Nonetheless, adulthood requires coming to grips with the fact that no jolly fat man is coming down the chimney with gifts in hand. In the real world, the strange fat man wears a frown and comes through your front door with an arrest warrant if you don't pay your taxes. For many people...
Yeah, I don't know what Santa Claus got to do with anything. We're talking about Trading with the Enemies Act and how anyone who refused to align themselves with this new fiat government instantly became an enemy of the state. Namely, specifically speaking of anyone of so-called African American descendant? Yeah, descendants, okay. Afro-Americans. Anyone that is a native to this land was instantly classified an enemy once they refused to give up their property, their gold, and their claim on this land itself.
The story of Executive Order 6102 brings them into collision with this reality. It teaches us that the United States government has not hesitated to brazenly confiscate its citizens' wealth through the barrel of a gun, and under the right circumstances would do it again. However, most discussion of 6102 focuses on why...
And notice he said citizens. Let me bring that back. He's speaking about the reclassification and the registration. Excuse me. As Revelation speaks of, when it talks about the selling of men and men's soul. We spoke about that in great length on the Focus Daily Show, TV show. Go check out previous episodes. Catch up. Then come back when you learn something.
Hesitated to brazenly confiscate its citizens' wealth through the barrel of a gun, and under the right circumstances would do it again. However, most discussion of 6102 focuses on why FDR did it and whether it was justified. This debate is framed around FDR's overall handling of the Great Depression. On one side, you have essentially FDR's hagiography, which says that he was an unmitigated American hero, and that without his New Deal, we would all have been lost. On the other side, you have the somewhat milquetoast Republican criticism, which says, well, maybe FDR went too far, or maybe he hurt the economy as much as he helped it. Sometimes the spicy libertarian will get...
See, the point of this is to learn how to look past the filler, the rhetoric and propaganda, and see the truth of the story, which is the American government enacted an act which made the native people, the original people of this land, enemies of the state. Fast forward to 2024, then you begin to understand why organizations such as the police department and such focus so hard on us as a people, while the media presents us in the image and light that they present us in, because it is important in order for their corporate structure to continue to thrive that they keep us as enemies of the state. And next thing you know, they introducing entertainment, hip hop that promotes nothing but pure violence, ruining our image, and at the same time influencing our youth to to, to participate in said violence. I'm stumbling. Let's move on.
Get hot under the collar and tell you FDR sent America down the path to welfare statism and accustomed Americans to the pernicious dole. All of this misses the most important lesson.
See, key words are understanding the code. When they say Americans, it's our job to understand they mean the real Americans, or look at it as the real Americans, which are the Afro Americans.
Lesson from EO 6102, which is how FDR pulled the whole thing off. I mean, Tito's Republican criticism, which says, well, maybe FDR went too far, or maybe he hurt the economy as much as he helped it. Sometimes the spicy libertarian will get hot under the collar and tell you FDR sent America down the path to welfare statism and accustomed Americans to the pernicious dole. All of this misses the most important lesson from EO 6102, which is how FDR pulled the whole thing off. I mean, technically, legally. This is because, even though FDR's presidency could justifiably be characterized as a quasi-dictatorship, and in the words of America's foremost FDR disrespecter, Curtis Yarvin, a commencious moldbug, ruled by personal decree 4, there were specific legal precedents and...
You're going to need you a Black's Law Dictionary to get the fullest understanding. But heed these words. You must study to show yourself approved. You must study to show yourself approved. You must study to show yourself approved. Here on Focus Daily TV, we just introduce you to the topic, and it's up to you to rock it. It's up to you to get out there and learn more, because the more this true knowledge spreads, the quicker we'll be returned back to our former glorious, as God intended, position.
And tools of executive power that he relied on to make EO 6102 kosher. This legality, fig leaf for tyranny as it may have been, is crucially important to understand. It was one of the foundational steps in codifying what would go on to become a technique for abusing Americans' rights favored by almost every president, and has been implemented dozens of times in the...
Abusing real Americans' rights. It has been continued to be perpetrated against us as a people. Let's go.
Decades since. If we have any hope of putting a stop to it, we must first learn to see it from a distance, and then stomp it out preemptively.
Now we must first return back to the Word of God, the Bible, open it up, become familiar with said government instrument, become familiar with law, with the bylaws and commandments of the Father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Hit that like button, subscribe, support the channel. Hashtag Focus Daily TV.
The use and abuse of this act. Now, in a well-ordered republic, it should never be necessary to resort to extra constitutional measures, for although they may for the time be beneficial, yet the precedent is pernicious. For if the practice is once established of disregarding the laws for good objects, they will in a little while be disregarded under that pretext for evil purposes. Machiavelli, The Prince, and the Discourses. I'm not sure anyone's ever said that the conduct of American presidents has on the whole...
Yeah, he's speaking in code, heavily speaking in code. But just listen and pay attention, and you'll be amazed what occurs.
Not been Machiavellian enough, but in this case, the historical record is clear. Dating back at least to Abraham Lincoln's suspension of habeas corpus in 1862, so he could lock people up without trial during the Civil War. Disregarding the laws for good objects has been practically a job requirement of the Oval Office. Carl Schmitt said, "Sovereign is he who decides on the exception. Every U.S. president since Lincoln has made sure, when necessary, to create and exploit extra constitutional exceptions for their ends."
Boom. It's all legal leaves. It's all legal paperwork. It's all witchcraft. But that's it for today. Till next time, Focus Daily, y'all. Hit that like button, subscribe, hashtag Focus Daily TV. We out.